Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis hit third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Baltimore Orioles in the final game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Orioles, right-hander Albert Suarez, and for the Padres, right-hander Randy Vasquez. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 10:35 a.m. at Camden Yards. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll also check in with Gwynn Jr. in just a few minutes. We have major news on the Padres front this morning, a major trade that has gone down just in the last couple of hours. We'll update you on that in just a few minutes, so stay tuned. But first, let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971, with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside. Padres are 57-50. They've won 7 in a row for the first time this season. They're 7-1 on this 9-game road trip. Padres are 7 games above 500 for the first time this year. Meanwhile, the Orioles are 61-43, second best record in the American League. For as good as the O's have been, they're just 4-10 in their last 14 games, 6-12 in their last 18. Padres wrapping up this 9-game road trip today in Baltimore. They kept it rolling yesterday at Camden Yards.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
In the top of the second, there were 2 outs and runners on second and third for Kyle Higashioka.
Kramer deals. Higashioka swings, pops it up mile high left side. The shortstop Henderson on the outfield grass, trying to call off Urias. They collide and it drops down. Both runs score, and an absolute disaster for the Oriole infield. 2-0 San Diego.
An absolute disaster and an absolute gift for the Padres. The Orioles' shaky defense was far from being done. The Padres put runners on first and third with 1 out in the top of the third for Xander Bogaerts.
Here's the 0-1. Xander swings, grounds it sharply to third base, underneath Urias, and down the left field line. Profar has scored. Manny's on his way to third. He'll be held there. Xander ends up at second base, and the Padre lead is 3-0.
It was ruled a double for Bogaerts, but maybe another play that Urias should have made. We move on to the top of the 4th inning. The Padres had runners on first and second with 1 out for Jerks and Profar.
1-2 the pitch. Profar swings, grounds it softly to second. Norby charges, flips to second. 1 on to first, gets away over the head of O'Hearn. Higashioka's going to come in and score. Another defensive oopsie on the Baltimore side, and the Padres lead it 4-0.
Meanwhile, Michael King was rolling. He retired the first 8 batters through 5 scoreless innings. He had struck out 7 while giving up 1 single and walking 1. Padres still led 4-0 heading to the top of the 7th inning. Manny Machado then had a moment.
A 1 pitch. Machado swings, hits it in the air to deep right center field. Mullins is back. He's going to watch. It's going to go. 3-run homer for Manny Machado. Welcome back to Baltimore. His 101st career home run in this building. And the Padres now lead it 7-0 in the 7th.
Padres would jump out to an 8-0 lead. Michael King's final line, 6 innings and a third, 2 earned runs allowed, 2 hits. He struck out 9, walked 2, 101 pitches. Padres went on to win it comfortably, 9-4, a 7th consecutive win for the Padres. And now they try to make it 8 straight wins as they take on the Orioles in this series finale. Let's go out to Camden Yards.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Tony Gwynn Jr. in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
We go out to Oriole Park at Camden Yards, and we're joined by Tony Gwynn Jr. as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 10:35. Tony, let's start with the news of the morning. Padres acquiring right-handed reliever Jason Adam from the Tampa Bay Rays in exchange for right-hander Dylan Lesko, outfielder Homer Bush Jr., catcher J.D. Gonzalez. Adam, really good numbers with the Rays for a few years. 2 years remaining of control after this one. All the prospects in the deal going the other way in the top 12 in the Padres organization, according to MLB.com. Dylan Lesko, arguably their top pitching prospect. Your immediate reaction, Tony, to this deal?
Padres get a high-leverage bullpen arm that they think can help them down the stretch. And it's a need that they had. One of the boxes, if you will, that they wanted to check, I think, as you got closer to deadline. But it also raises the question, what is starting pitching going to cost if you're giving up your 3 of your top 12 prospects going the other way? And so the Padres certainly got better in this deal, and I think it makes their bullpen a little bit more deeper. I mean, even without Wandy healthy right now, as you start to get completely healthy, you can see the type of options that Mike Shildt now has to his disposal.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Makes them a much better team, a better bullpen, but the price was steep, so we'll see how it all works out. And you're right, thinking about what a starting pitcher might cost or what a big bat might cost. Who knows at this point? It's a seller's market, as many have discussed for a number of weeks now. Let's talk about today's game, Tony. This team playing so well right now, 7 straight wins, an opportunity today to make it an 8-1 road trip. They turned right-hander Randy Vasquez on the mound. And what's interesting about this matchup, Tony, Vasquez has been really good lately. He does struggle against left-handed hitters. The Orioles have a number of really quality lefties in their lineup, especially at the top. How does Randy Vasquez, at the very least, hold his own against this Orioles lineup here today?
By competing. I think, often Randy has gotten lost in the shuffle because of the performances around him and Cease and Waldron and King. But like you said, his last 5 have been really good. And what you're starting to like about it is he's figuring out how to be more efficient. Now, he's had issues against left-handed hitters, and certainly this lineup has a bunch of them and a bunch of really good ones. But, at some point, you have to find out where you are. You got to test yourself. It's a good test for him today. Bunch of lefties, bunch of good lefties in this lineup. They've already got, their behinds beat the first 2 games of this series. So, come out, execute. And the way he's thrown the ball over the last 5, there's no reason to think that he can't figure it out and try to figure out a way to have some success here today.
And on the other side of this pitching matchup, Robert Suarez's brother, Albert. So should be interesting to see Albert Suarez against this Padres lineup here today. Tony, let's talk about one of the guys in this Padres lineup, and that's Xander Bogaerts, who since coming off the IL is hitting over 500 in a span of 10 games. 4 out of his last 5 hits have now gone for extra bases, and that's the thing that stood out to me. Early on in the second half, it was all singles, but now there's some slug, some thump that we're seeing from Xander. These last couple of days in particular, what are you seeing from Xander Bogaerts?
Just more comfort at the plate. He looks comfortable in the box. He looks more confident. It seems like with each at bat he's getting. And for those who watched Xander when he was in Boston, when he was, at his best, that whippy swing is starting to show itself. And you're starting to see it in the extra bases in yesterday's game with the 2 doubles and triple. And he had another extra base hit the night before. So you're starting to see that swing, that Xander Bogaerts-esque swing returning, and it couldn't be coming at a better time for the Padres.
Obviously, they're playing really well, 7 straight wins. I want to ask you about, and in the context of the trade this morning, about what the deadline, what a trade can do for a group that's playing well, that's seemingly clicking about as well as they have maybe in the last couple of seasons. When a clubhouse, Tony, gets the news that they're getting help, What is the reaction in there? Like, is there a tangible boost that a team can feel once they see that they're getting some help and guys are coming?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like it's like a kumbaya moment. Everybody gets in a circle and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're doing this." It's more of like in everybody's head they recognize. All right, the team went out, they made a move. They're telling us they think we're good enough, and so it does put a battery in your back. And you do. I mean, this time of the season, this time of year is always easy to push through because you're at the end and you want to get into the dance. But when your team goes out and makes a move, it does show a ball club that they mean business. On the flip side, though, just this time in general can be trying, especially for a young team. We watched the Padres in 21, a much younger version, really struggle with a lot of the rumors that were going around. And so, at this point, they've gone through it enough. These guys are all seasoned and know how to deal with it. And so, yeah, if you get a deal like one today where your bullpen gets a little bit stronger and it's a spot that has had some issues at time, it definitely can boost you up a little bit.
Yeah, I remember being around the clubhouse in 2022 when the Soto trade was percolating and we were wondering who was going, and you had the Hosmer and Voit situation and all the rumors all over the place. It's an interesting time of year, no doubt about it. Tony, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at 10:25 a.m. here in San Diego as the Padres go for a sweep of the Orioles and go to look to complete this road trip at 8-1, which would be absolutely fantastic. Thanks so much as always.
No problem, Sam.
All right, that's Tony Gwynn Jr. joining us on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for today's game, final game of this series and this road trip. Remember the Padres have a day off tomorrow, and then they return home for a series against the LA Dodgers on Tuesday. And don't look now, but the Dodgers lost yesterday on a walk-off home run by Alex Bregman to the Astros in Houston, and with the Padres winning yesterday and the Astros losing, Padres are 5.5 games out of first place in the National League West. If they were able to pick up some more ground today, all of a sudden those two games against the Dodgers this week at Petco Park, they become very, very interesting if they weren't already. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll also dive a little bit deeper into this trade for Jason Adam, the right-handed reliever from the Tampa Bay Rays. We're going to do something we don't usually do here on the pregame, but we'll sort of dive into it. I'll give you my thoughts on it, kind of cover the different aspects, thoughts you could have about this trade. We'll also have our keys to the game. We'll revisit some of the things that Dylan Cease had to say after his no-hitter. So a lot to do as we walk you up towards first pitch at 10:35 at Camden Yards. Padres going for an 8th consecutive win on the Padres Radio Network. Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal. Your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. We hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt coming up in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. We also have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming up in a little bit as well. We'll also talk more about this trade for Jason Adam. If you're just joining us this morning, Padres acquiring right-hander Jason Adam, very good reliever with 2 years remaining of control from the Tampa Bay Rays. This came down just a couple of hours ago. In exchange, though, for quite a package, Dylan Lesko, J.D. Gonzalez, and Homer Bush Jr., the three prospects going back to Tampa Bay. Lesko, arguably the top pitching prospect in the Padres organization. So we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in just a few minutes, so stay tuned. First, let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
Well, yesterday the Padres picking up a very nice 9-4 win against the Baltimore Orioles. The Padres did a good job early in the game taking advantage of opportunities. The Orioles played very sloppy defense early. There was the drop pop-up in the second, led to 2-run scoring. Padres took a 2-0 lead. Other errors later in the game. They had a 4-0 lead. Manny Machado, a 3-run home run. Later in the game, picked up career RBIs, 998, 999, and 1,000 on his career. He did it in Baltimore. And on top of all that, Michael King was really good. At one point, had 6 scoreless innings, pitched into the 7th inning, picked up the win for the Padres yesterday. Day game after a night game, so no pregame media availability for Mike Shildt. But here's some of what Mike Shildt had to say after yesterday's win in Baltimore.
Yeah, we took advantage of some opportunities early. A lot of relentless at bats, kept adding on, and then the big blow with Manny. It was loud noise. It was a big boy swing, and got his 1,000th career RBI, so it's quite an accomplishment. And the rest of the group was tremendous. The whole lineup basically contributed. I love Jackson's situational hitting, was able to get guys in, and Bogey continues to take really, really good at bats. He's in the middle of everything. I love the effort on the triple.
There's a lot of times earlier on that we were talking about starting pitching in a different vein, and you were talking about the recipe for success. Now it's playing out. What do you say about that continued effort?
Yeah, that's the it's been on display, right? It starts off that mound, and Michael King, credit to him, man, he took that comebacker, first hitter, and it's like, okay, he's gonna get through this first, and I'm sure he's got a pretty nice blue bruise. But man, no complaints, no issue. I'm sure it was, clearly there, but he threw another tremendous gem to grab, get us one out in the 7th with nothing on the scoreboard to start.
Xander's been hitting since the break, but a lot of singles. But to see the power offensively out of him that you saw today, how encouraging are both those things? That he's been hitting, but also that. Yeah,
they've both been encouraging. The biggest thing for him is he's been, putting barrels on baseballs, using the whole field, driving the ball the other way. He's just Xander Bogaerts right now, just putting good swings on it and getting the barrel on it and driving the ball and hitting it all over the ballpark.
For those last 2 at-bats in barrel, one of those, a manager appreciates those more than the average person.
No question. Those are the at-bats that continues to help you get in the win column. Professional, situational at-bats, and a lot of our guys take them, and Jackson took really 2 quality ones tonight.
What's the most impressive thing about this 7-game winning streak?
To Ace's point, we've had some really good pitching. That's been the, but we coupled it with, we just played good baseball. Pitch has been outstanding. They've been able to go deep into games. We've taken, the at-bats have been relentless. They've been situational. We've executed at a high level. Those 2 are married. It's a pretty good thing, and we've coupled it with really good defense, and we've been smart on the bases.
You guys have been good on the road all season, but on this trip in particular, 2 teams on the front and back of this trip that, 20 games above 500 types of teams you're doing it against. What is the formula to winning on the road and the way that you guys are right now?
The formula is what we've already kind of talked about, and I think it's irrespective of road or home or it's getting good starting pitching. It's being able to, first of all, we're together, which we are, tight group, going to play together, communicate, get better as the series goes. And then that communication's really in a good place. I've been pleased with that. For the starting pitching and the relentless at bats, 1 through 9, regardless of who we're facing, and again, playing clean baseball.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt after yesterday's game. We'll hear more from Mike Shildt on our post-game show coming up later on this afternoon following this series finale against the Baltimore Orioles. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch at Camden Yards coming up at 10:35 a.m. We'll have who's hot, who's not coming up in just a moment. Let's talk a little bit more about this Jason Adam trade. Again, if you're just joining us, waking up on this Sunday morning, Padres acquiring right-hander Jason Adam, a reliever from the Tampa Bay Rays, in exchange for 3 minor leaguers: Dylan Lesko, outfielder Homer Bush, and Homer Bush Jr., I should say, and catcher J.D. Gonzalez. Lesko, of course, arguably the top pitching prospect in the Padres organization, a top 100 prospect in baseball, according to MLB.com. Before we get into what the Padres gave up and the steep price this was to acquire Jason Adam, let's introduce you to Jason Adam a little bit. A sub-3 ERA last year, 2.98 ERA in 56 appearances. He struck out 69 in 54-plus innings. This season, ERA of 2.49, 47 appearances, struck out 50 in 47 innings. So he's somebody who has been very high leverage for Tampa Bay, get swing and miss, really good stuff. And you can't tell the story of this trade, at least initially, without also acknowledging that Adam has 2 years left before he's a free agent. So the Padres will have him for the remainder of 2024 and then all of 2025 and 2026. So 2 years of control remaining. So there's no doubt that the Padres went out and got something they really needed. I think we would all agree with that. Another high leverage arm for their bullpen to slot right in with Suarez and Estrada and Morajón. And if you can get another guy or two to really step up, be somebody you can count on consistently to get outs in big situations, it undoubtedly improves this Padres bullpen. He is the kind of guy they need. The Padres, though, did have to give up quite a bit to get him. Dylan Lesko has had a tough year in the minor leagues, a 6.46 ERA in 16 starts. He's walked a lot of guys, 52 walks in 69-plus innings. Lesko, look, again, top 100 prospect, first-round pick a couple of years ago by the Padres. Was in the midst of a rough year, but we're going to see if the Rays can get him back in the right direction. And look, that's probably the hardest pill to swallow out of this package going back to Tampa Bay. And that is that, look, Dylan Lesko could go on to become a star. We're going to see what he ultimately becomes, but he is a big-time pitching prospect, not having a great year, but still, one bad year doesn't make you not a top prospect anymore, so we'll see. Padres also had to part with Homer Bush Jr. As of today, he was ranked as the number 8 prospect in the Padres system, according to MLB.com. Somebody I really liked coming out of spring training, has a lot of speed, a lot of raw tools, somebody who started pretty late in college, really, starting and playing a lot during his college career. He's probably a ways away, was at Fort Wayne at the time of the trade. Lesko also at Fort Wayne. And then J.D. Gonzalez, the catcher who was ranked as the number 12 prospect in the system, again, according to MLB.com. Talented prospects. With that said, you look at the Padres catching situation. Right now, they've got, as far as young catchers, Campusano. They've got, obviously, Ethan Salas waiting in the wings. Brandon Valenzuela is another catcher that's ranked in the top 12. So there's depth at that position if you want to look at it that way. The overall package, it's a steep price, especially when you consider trading Lesko for a reliever. It is a steep price. There's no doubt about it. But I think the reality is, if the Padres want to improve this team in this seller's market, we've talked about it on the postgame show for a couple of weeks, it is a big-time seller's market. I think what this reveals, and what a lot of the trades so far at the deadline have revealed, that the prices are really high right now. So I suppose if you're a Padres fan that wants them to improve, but doesn't want them to touch DeVries or Salas, the top 2 prospects in the organization, well, I guess you may have to come to grips with the fact that they're going to have to give up some pretty big pieces to go get help for 2024 and beyond in the case of Jason Adam. So one of those trades where they get something they really needed, they did have to give up a lot, and now we see what else A.J. Preller does before the deadline on Tuesday afternoon. So some quick thoughts there on the trade for Jason Adam. And I assume Jason Adam will join the team during this coming homestand. First pitch coming up at 10:35 in Baltimore. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We take a look at the hot category. 3 Padres in there. Jerks and Profar, 10 for 26 in the midst of a 6-game hitting streak in that span. 4 home runs, 7 RBIs in his last 6 games. Xander Bogaerts, since returning from the IL, he's been great. Bogaerts hitting .512 in 41 at-bats. Since returning from injury, he's had an extra base hit in 4 out of his last 5 at-bats. Luis Arraez, also in the midst of an 8-game hitting streak, 12 for 35 with 4 extra base hits in that span. Not category, we put a couple of guys in there. Jake Cronenworth does have a base hit in each of his last 2 games, but still just 3 for his last 26. David Peralta back in the lineup today. For the Padres, he's just 1 for his last 13. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 10:35. All right, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll hear what Dylan Cease had to say earlier this week on the station after the second no-hitter in Padres history. We'll also take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard, keys to the game, and more to come. More after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 10:35 at Camden Yards. Padres going for an 8th consecutive win. They're trying to make it 8-1 on this 9-game road trip and looking for a sweep of the O's today in Baltimore. We'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. Our keys to the game coming up. We'll also revisit what Dylan Cease had to say after his no-hitter earlier this week in Washington, D.C. Let's give you the latest on the injuries for the Padres entering this one.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit him up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Really no immediate updates to get to, but let's sort of round up the recent activity on the injury front. Wandy Peralta on the IL right now, left-handed reliever with a left adductor strain that happened right before the All-Star break. No update on him over the last week or so. Right-hander Joe Musgrove through a bullpen session earlier this week, incorporated his full arsenal of breaking pitches. Was a little bit more intense than the last couple of bullpen sessions. He's reported feeling no issues with his elbow. The next step could be a minor league rehab assignment, maybe going to Arizona, pitching in more of a simulated game scenario, but Musgrove continuing to make progress. With Fernando Tatis Jr., we know that he's doing light baseball activity, including swinging and running, but again, with Fernando, no timetable as he recovers from that right femoral stress reaction. And that's a look at our injury news. Really nothing new to tell you about, but obviously two big pieces in Joe and Fernando. They are working their way back. By the way, just a couple of notes for you. Padres did have to make room on their 40-man roster for right-hander Jason Adam. The corresponding move to open up a spot was designating for assignment right-hander Glenn Otto. So Glenn Otto, DFA'd. He was in the midst of coming back from an injury earlier this year, and that's the way the Padres made room on their 40-man. And as we know yesterday, if you missed it, didn't see him in the game yesterday, right-hander Alec Jacob was recalled from AAA El Paso, so he's on the Major League roster in the bullpen. Right-hander Adam Mazur was optioned to AAA El Paso. So just some housekeeping notes there as the Padres get ready to take on the Orioles. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We take a look at scores from around the major leagues. We have one game going on already today. Reds ahead of the Rays, 1-0 in Tampa Bay in the 7th inning. Games yet to begin. Everything else. We have the Braves and the Mets in New York at 10:40. David Peterson on the mound for the Mets. Reynaldo Lopez on the mound for Atlanta. Guardians in Philadelphia at 10:35 a.m. Rangers and the Blue Jays in Toronto at 10:37. Twins and the Tigers at 10:40 in Detroit. Cubs and the Royals in Kansas City at 11:10. Dodgers and the Astros in Houston at 11:10. That was a great game yesterday between the Astros and the Dodgers. Astros won it on a walk-off home run from Alex Bregman. Marlins and the Brewers in Milwaukee at 11:10. Mariners and the White Sox in Chicago at 11:10. Garrett Crochet on the mound in that one for the White Sox, and if he is traded around the trade deadline, this will be his final start in a White Sox uniform. We shall see what happens. Nationals and the Cardinals in St. Louis at 11:15. Rockies and the Giants in San Francisco at 1:05. A's and the Angels in Anaheim at 1:07. Pirates and the Diamondbacks in Arizona at 1:10. And finally, the Yankees and the Red Sox at Fenway Park at 4 p.m. Sunday Night Baseball. Carlos Rodon on the mound for the Yankees. Tanner Houck on the mound for the Red Sox. That was a great game last night. The Yankees ended up winning it in 10. Back and forth battle at Fenway, and they wrap up that series at 4 p.m. Full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Sunday across the major leagues. Well, of course, one of the highlights, really the highlight, the top highlight of this 7-game winning streak was what Dylan Cease did on Thursday in Washington, throwing the second no-hitter in Padres franchise history, the first since Joe Musgrove accomplished it in 2021 in Arlington, Texas, the first no-hit bid of Dylan Cease's career. It was such an exciting game, such an exciting day. Cease, who had come so close a couple of years ago, was 1 out away from a no-hitter when his now teammate Luis Arraez broke it up with 2 outs in the 9th inning, base hit for Arraez. So he had come 1 out away before, but this time went the distance, a no-hitter for Dylan Cease, and just a super, super memorable day in Washington, D.C. Dylan Cease joined Gwynn and Chris earlier this week here on 97.3 The Fan. In fact, he joined them on Friday, the day after the no-hitter. So I wanted to revisit some of the things that Dylan Cease had to say earlier this week. Remember, one of the interesting aspects, and this will forever be an interesting aspect of this no-hitter, Dylan Cease had to wait around through a rain delay after getting warmed up for the game. Then we had a 1 hour and 16-minute rain delay. Then he had to wait probably about an hour and a half between the time he warmed up for the game and the time he actually took the mound in the bottom half of the first inning. Here was Dylan Cease on what he was thinking during that rain delay.
I don't know if I was thinking too much other than just kind of focused on how my body felt and like making sure I was moving every so once in a while and not going 20 or 30 minutes where I was just being sedentary. So my main focus turned to basically either stretching or bike or light leg toss. And then once we found out kind of when the tarp was going to be moved and all that, I was able to sort of formulate a plan as to when I wanted to get off the indoor mound and throw maybe 20 pitches or so and just kind of get everything ramped up to high speed again.
Speaking of pitches, Dylan Cease was at 94 through 7 innings. When he went back in the dugout after the bottom half of the 7th inning, Mike Shildt, Ruben Niebla, Joe Musgrove, they all had a conversation with Dylan Cease, and it sounded like Mike Shildt was ready to take him out of the game. Dylan Cease was able to convince Mike to leave him in. Here was Dylan Cease on what he said to Mike Shildt after that 7th inning.
Yeah, I said I feel strong. Throwing 100. We got 6 days rest coming up. I did 113 earlier in the year, and then just stuff like that where I was just trying to build a case, and then Joe and Crony were there and they kind of backed me up. So I think collectively we're all able to talk him into it, and thankfully he let me go back out there.
So that was Dylan Cease talking about that conversation after the 7th inning. Dylan Cease, if you look at his numbers, these last 3 starts, he has been so good. He was nearly unhittable the 2 starts prior to the one where he had the no-hitter on Thursday in D.C., just 1 hit given up in each of those past 2 starts, and then no hits given up on Thursday. So 2 hits allowed in a combined 22 innings for Dylan Cease. Here was Cease earlier this week on how he's been so dialed in during these last 3 starts.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was just a mechanical change I made where I'm keeping my glove closer to my body, and for whatever reason, I think it's harder for the batters to pick it up, and it's making me sync up to where I'm throwing harder and my stuff's sharp. And for the most part, I'm executing better just in general. So, it's kind of one of those things where I was just, for 2 months, I was just trying to find it, and then finally we got it syncing up, and right now the results have been really good.
That was Dylan Cease on the Padres Radio Network, 97.3 The Fan. Earlier this week, again, a big congratulations to Dylan on throwing the first no-hitter of his career, the second no-hitter in the history of the San Diego Padres, and we'll see Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres on Wednesday. And taking just a quick look ahead to the pitching matchups between the Padres and the LA Dodgers, Tuesday and Wednesday, they're really good ones. It'll be Matt Waldron against Tyler Glasnow on Tuesday, and then Dylan Cease against Clayton Kershaw on Wednesday. So looking forward to seeing those pitching matchups at Petco Park beginning on Tuesday. It's Military Sunday here with the Padres, and we want to give a special salute to all our active duty service members, veterans, and their families. San Diego County Toyota dealers are proud partners of the Padres and honored to support San Diego's military community. When we come back on the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll have our keys to the game. We'll also take a deeper dive into today's pitching matchup between between Randy Vasquez and Albert Suarez, and we'll continue to walk you up towards first pitch at 10:35 in Baltimore, Maryland. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues after this. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 10:35. Let's give you our keys to the game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number one, limit the Orioles' hot hitters. Anthony Santander had a 12-game hitting streak snap last night, still swinging a good bat. Colton Cowser, an 8-game hitting streak. Coming into this one, Gunnar Henderson, 2 hits so far in this series, a double. How do the Padres do against those 3? That's key number one. Key number 2, Randy Vasquez repeating what his buddies have done. Padres starting pitchers have tossed quality starts in 7 of their last 8 games out of the All-Star break, a 1.44 ERA out of the break so far. They've been great. Can Randy continue to follow suit? That's key number 2. A quick look at our keys to the game. Let's tell you what to watch for in this one.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game. Padres have done a nice job limiting the Orioles' power in this series. They had a home run on Friday, just one. A home run on Saturday, just one. Keep in mind, the Orioles lead the majors with 163 home runs this year, but the Padres have done a good job at limiting them. That power so far in this series. Can they do that for a third consecutive day? Can they avoid the Orioles' power game waking up? That's what to watch for in today's game. Let's take a look at our pitching matchup between Randy Vasquez and Albert Suarez.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview. Presented by Chimney Sweeps, Inc., San Diego's trusted chimney and fireplace service company for 40 years. Call Chimney Sweeps, Inc. at 1-800-CHIMNEY or book an inspection online at chimneysweepsinc.com.
Right-hander Randy Vasquez on the mound for the Padres. 3-5, a 4.17 ERA on the year, 14 starts, 69 innings of work. His last start against the Nationals, he was great. 6 innings, no runs given up, 5 hits allowed. His last 5 starts, a 1.71 ERA in 26-plus innings. Has some pretty dramatic splits. Lefties batting .390 against them, righties at .260. Orioles have some really good left-handed hitters. Cowser, Santander, Henderson, O'Hearn, Mullins. A big key today is how Vasquez deals with those lefty bats. Right-hander Albert Suarez on the mound for the Orioles. That's Robert's brother. 5-4, 3.48 ERA in 20 outings, 13 starts. His last start against the Marlins, not a good one. 2 innings, 6 earned runs given up, 8 hits and a home run allowed. His 3 starts prior were better, though. 3.18 ERA in 17 innings. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup. Randy Vasquez against Albert Suarez. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. It has been an outstanding road trip for the Padres so far. They are currently 7-1 on this 9-game trip. Now an opportunity to win an 8th in a row here today and sweep the Baltimore Orioles. We'll see if they can do it. When we come back, Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game show. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.